Welcome. We had quite a bit of traffic this afternoon, right? Yes. It took a while. It took a while to get here. This is a celebration not only for the community of Fresno, and I know there are many locals here, but also many people traveled from all over the place to be a part of this. So we're celebrating two things this evening. We're celebrating the opening of the William Saroyan Museum. We're also celebrating the birthday of William Saroyan. He would have been 110 years old today. So, so as many of you know, William Saroyan was born in Fresno. He died in Fresno, and for the last 17 years of his life, he lived in the home, which is now a museum. I know many of you have not had a chance yet, obviously, to go visit this property because it just opened a couple hours ago officially, but you can do so soon. But let me just tell you a little bit about how much work it took to be here today, to make this become a reality. So although William Saroyan obviously is known for his literary work, the museum is really a gift here in the community. It is a gem, it is a resource for generations to come to be able to go to this place and learn about a man who had such an enormous impact on this community, in the Central Valley, really. If you're not familiar, a couple of years ago, the Renaissance Cultural and Intellectual Foundation, founded by Arthur Janovekian, that was purchased. The house was in foreclosure. They came in, they purchased the home. They decided to strip it. It was abandoned, and they did all this work and poured all this hard-earned money, time, and effort into it to make it into what it is today. So it took a lot of resources, a lot of time. It was a labor of love, but it also took a lot of creative minds to make it what it is as we see it today. So William Saroyan, a novelist, right? A playwright, a short story writer, also an artist. He is all of those things, but for me, William Saroyan is someone who grew up in the United States and always embraced his roots and never forgot where he came from. And I think that is a very important quality, and that is something that I admire so much, and I work very hard to, within my own family, instill that. And I know many of you do the same as well. He wrote stories about his family. He always tried to talk about the experience of growing up in America, being an Armenian. And the truth is, some people are just destined for greatness. I think William Saroyan, we can all agree, was one of those people. There's these great stories about him where he talks about being a young boy, being in second grade, and his teacher asking him, "What would you like us to call you? Will, Willie, Billy, William?" And he says, he thought about it for a moment. Keep in mind, he's in second grade. And he thought, what's my biography going to say? And he answered, William. So even at that age, he knew that he was destined for greatness, and he knew he wanted to be a writer. Now, his father wrote, his work was unpublished, but he wrote, perhaps there was the inspiration there. But he also decided he wanted to be a writer because when he was growing up, he said, he thought about books coming either from the public library or coming from God. It was just there. Books were there like mountains were there, and rivers were there. He didn't understand that it came from a specific person. And once he realized that, once he realized Charles Dickens, he says, was a specific person, he thought, why can't William Saroyan do what he can do? And so I think that illustrates the fact that someone has the drive, the passion, and the will. And I think that is an important message to the youth and pretty much anyone else, right? So I think we're celebrating his life tonight, and we're celebrating who he was and who he is and who he will be. These are stories that really just put a smile on your face and also illustrates to the younger generation that if you have the passion and the willpower, you can achieve anything. And that is what this museum is all about. So I hope you do visit it at some point soon. It's also really exciting and rewarding, I think, for all of us as Armenians. We take pride in the success of others. We also feel a sense of accomplishment, at least I do tonight. I feel a sense of accomplishment because it is such an important moment for the community and also for all of us here tonight. I think it also showcases, I mean, look around the room. And I know there were so many people who hadn't registered, who came late but wanted to be a part of this but couldn't. It showcases the Armenian spirit and how we always try to support one another. And that says a lot about us as a people. I think we collectively have a responsibility, a duty, and a mission to preserve our heritage and to flourish in our craft and to always, always remember our roots. So with that said, I would like to acknowledge some of the dignitaries here tonight, and then we can begin the program. We do have Very Reverend Father Tajat Ashikjian, Holy Trinity Armenian Church. We also have Father Yesai Petros, St. Paul Armenian Church. We have Fresno State University President, Dr. Joseph Castro, along with his wife Mary. Ambassador of the Republic of Armenia to Washington, D.C., Grigor Hovhannisyan. The founder and benefactor of the House of William Saroyan, Mr. Artur Janibekyan. And let's see, sorry, we have a list here. Congressman Jim Acosta is here with the California 16th District. Honorary Council of Las Vegas, Andy Armenia. Honorary Council of Fresno, Mr. Berj Akvaryan, excuse me, along with his wife. And we also have Council President of Fresno, City Councilwoman Esmeralda Soria. So I hope I didn't miss anyone, and if I did, let me know, and I will add your name as we go on through the evening. All right, so your first speaker, let us welcome the President of the University of Fresno, President Dr. Joseph Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's such an honor to welcome all of you here to Fresno State. We just had a wonderful experience, my wife Mary and I, joining a group for the ribbon cutting of the museum. And it was an incredible experience to be able to visit Saroyan's home. It actually, I'm from Hanford, and the neighborhood reminded me a lot of my own neighborhood in Hanford. It's a beautiful neighborhood and a beautiful home. When William Saroyan died, I understand that he very much wanted Fresno to be a center for writers. And in fact, he wanted the students at Fresno State in particular to benefit from his special home. And so the renovation of this house into a museum, I think, would have made him very, very happy. And for us to do it on his birthday, I can imagine how happy he would be. I think it's appropriate that this event tonight is taking place at Fresno State, since one of the primary goals of the museum is to revive Saroyan studies. And our Armenian Studies program, which is world-renowned, and our English department are areas which can teach about Saroyan. I know this museum will be a destination for tourists from all around the world, just like our Armenian Genocide Monument has become a destination for people from all around the world. And so visitors will have the chance to visit the museum and experience Armenian culture, and they'll be able to come to campus as well and learn more about their culture through the Armenian Genocide Monument. This museum establishes a Fresno-Saroyan tie as well with the Republic of Armenia, as the Renaissance Foundation is based in Armenia. And I want to thank the Renaissance Foundation for their very generous gift of the home, and we're excited to collaborate with them. And I know that there are future plans for a digital museum in Yerevan, Armenia, and that will strengthen ties with Fresno. So thank you all for being here. I'm excited to participate in tonight's event. Thank you very much.
Next, let us welcome Ambassador Grigor Hovhannisyan to the stage, please.
Reverend clergy, Honorable Congressman Costa, brothers and sisters representing the Armenian American community I'm so delighted and privileged to be here tonight, witnessing this momentous event, this groundbreaking event. What an incredible year it is. 2018 marks 400th anniversary of Armenian presence in the United States. Some 400 years ago, in 1618, a risk-taker, ingenious guy, Martin the Armenian, joined the group of another adventurous people, the settlers, to come and settle in Jamestown, one of the first settlements in the United States, to start a creative business. He started growing tobacco. You know, he wasn't very successful, but he marked the beginning of Armenian presence in this country. Ever since, Armenians were working hard, contributing to this great nation, and our Armenian presence has been continuous. Fresno is one of the major centers of Armenian presence, of little Armenian civilizations in the middle of this great nation. With Saroyan as the icing on the cake, Saroyan defines the identity of Fresno Armenians. This community has become a flagship of Armenian Americans in many ways. And I can repeat that in Fresno, wherever I go, in Boston, and any other communities. It does. Fresno has a special meaning for our people, for 400 years of Armenian presence in this country. Last night I was boarding the plane. I've been to Fresno many times before, but I knew I was coming to attend this event. I felt like I'm making a pilgrimage to the birthplace of a man who defined our collective, our global nation. And in many ways, I think I make a controversial statement saying that Saroyan is one of the founding fathers of global Armenian world, of modern Armenian society. And let me offer this little thought. I was born in 16 or 17 years of my life spent in Soviet Union, behind the Iron Curtain. Many of you were on the other side of the Iron Curtain. And in the oblivious, trivial kind of existence of Soviet Armenia, detached from our national roots and origin and that sense of mission, all of a sudden, that Iron Curtain was breached, and that the person that breached and made it to Armenia was Saroyan. He reminded us of Bitlis, he reminded us about the bitterness, about the claim, about the creativity and the soul, and the desire to unite with our brothers and sisters. And ever since, Armenia was unique. We were the only, perhaps, country in that Soviet environment that, living physically behind the Iron Curtain, nevertheless had communication with the outside world, with you guys. We embrace all of a sudden we started having recollections. We became part of the global Armenian world. And in that sense, Saroyan is a father of the modern day global Armenian community, in which Republic of Armenia is one of the ways we exist and create. So I had this incredible feeling and I wanted to share with you. And I came with the sense of gratitude, my personal and on behalf of my colleagues and the Republic of Armenia, to the Renaissance Foundation for undertaking this grandiose, in a way, undertaking. Adding to the map of Armenian America yet another landmark, a living landmark that has a potential of uniting us, that is a potential of reaching to other communities. Saroyan is an Armenian author, but he's so American. Saroyan represents the communities around him, the Portuguese, the Italian, the Latino communities. And it's the epitome of our cosmopolitan spirit, the spirit of Armenianness, and that is the spirit of a brotherhood, reaching out to others with love, with sharing our passions, our traditions, our cuisine, our Orientalness, and also part of being part of the greatest Western civilization. So I thank Arthur Johnny Bacon and his team for this great contribution. Our nation is richly endowed with talent. Today's talent we have, they all. They're in multimedia, they're in the reality stars, the gamblers, the king of poker, and those. We are proud of these guys as well. They're great kids and young people. I personally, recently we had this controversy with one of the visits to Armenia. I say loudly, they're all good. We're very proud of them. But today, hard to also remind that of non-virtual, the analog heroes Armenian American community produced for us, for the global Armenian world, and for the global world. Saroyan being one of the biggest names we all know, but it's also Michael Arlen, Alen Hovanes, Ruben Mamoulian, Ashil Gorky, many others. So thank you again for creating this momentum. I think we all embrace it with love and passion. And I thank Fresno, the city, for hosting, for taking care of this asset in the future. And again, it was an absolute privilege for me to be here and witness this momentous occasion. Thank you.
Congressman Jim Costa.
Good evening. The Honorable Clergy, Mr. Ambassador, President Castro, distinguished guests. I may be an Odar, but tonight, everyone is an honorary Armenian. It is fitting and appropriate that we honor the life and the times of one noted Fresnan who has made such a mark throughout the world, William Saroyan. On his 110th birthday, to be here at Fresno State with the extended and expanded Armenian community, the families that for generations, like William Saroyan's family, came here before and after the diaspora or the genocide to make a difference. And what a difference William Saroyan has made throughout his lifetime. As the ambassador knows, and he does such a terrific job in representing Armenia in our nation's capital, we have many events with the Armenian National Committee on Capitol Hill. We have all sorts of gatherings in which we remember and recognize and improve our relations. We have an Armenian caucus, which I am honored to be a part of it. But as the ambassador knows, when I have an opportunity to address the gathering, I always begin by saying, my name is Aaron, and I come from the land of William Saroyan. When I say that, they know I come from Fresno. You know, William Saroyan once, he wrote so many wonderful, incredible things. And he was asked, well, what do you like about Fresno? He says, well, that's easy for me. Because having been born in Fresno, having spent some important years in Fresno, I like the connection between myself and this little area of the world, the earth, California. How so, William Saroyan? Because he wrote about the things we know. He wrote about his personal experiences. He wrote about his life. He wrote about Fresno. He wrote from his heart, and he wrote from his soul. And so the essence of William Saroyan is something that is international because he was a citizen of the world. To go with Bears and Blues some 2 years ago to Yerevan and see the statue of William Saroyan, his presence you could feel. And of course, as we visited for 4 days, when I would say I come from Fresno, they would say, oh yes, William Saroyan. But playwright, poet, a writer, a person who made a difference. I must tell you that I remember, not that I'm that old, of William Saroyan riding his bicycle in his neighborhood. For those who had that memory, you think, this is a great man. He won an Academy Award. He put Fresno literally and literally on the map. And he's riding his bicycle with his hat. For a younger person, it seemed to me an interesting reflection that you can obtain success, you can make a difference, you can write of your history, you can write of your people, you can write in ways that tell a story, that tell that story of Aaron growing up in Fresno, and yet still be a person who would get on your bicycle and go to your neighborhood. So today, I want to thank all of you who are here tonight for continuing to live the dream, live the essence of what was Saroyan. Because tonight we feel it. Tonight in the program we will sense it. And I guess we all have many favorite quotes of this beloved Fresno, this citizen of the world. But one of mine that I think relates his reflection of life was in his last days. And I believe I have this correct. He always was very thoughtful about the present and the future. And the story goes that he called a reporter from AP, and the reporter picks up the phone, and he says, I am William Saroyan, and I don't have many days left, and I would like to give you my epitaph for the sake of history, memory. And the AP reporter said, yes, and I'm Babe Ruth, and I hit 60 home runs. And Saroyan says, no, this is really William Saroyan. And so then when the reporter sensed that this was really real, he says, okay, he thought he had a big scoop. And William Saroyan said, I knew death was inevitable, but somehow I thought I'd be the exception. William Saroyan. God bless you.
Before we move on, I would also like to welcome and acknowledge Father Zahmed Margosian, Parish Priest of St. Mary Armenian Church of Yetten. So this is actually a real treat because for the first time you will hear a live performance sung beautifully by Hasmi Karzunyan. This is a song that was written by William Saroyan, Bari Bari, and it's music by Alan Hovanes. So for the first time ever, you will hear someone sing the words written by William Saroyan. Let us welcome Hasmi Karzunyan, please.
Ari, o ինչ
That was beautiful. Okay, so as I mentioned just a couple of hours ago, there was the official opening of the William Saroyan Museum, and many of you were not there, but we would like to show you a short video of what occurred. So let's watch.
Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you apples, plum, and apricots to add. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you fingers and the dates and the grapes.
In proclamation of prayers today, William Saroyan Day on behalf of the City Council of Santa Cruz and the Mayor of Fresno. Give us a hand. Մենք զգացություն եմ ապրում և շատ ուրախ եմ, որ հետ ինձ վաղ վիճակվեց առաջինը ստանալ այդ ազդակը և այդ ինֆորմացիան այն մասին, որ Սարոյանի տուն-թանգարանը տարիք ունի անցնելու ձեռքից ձեռք և այն պետք է կանգնեցնել և վերադարձնել հայկական իրականություն։ Շատ շնորհակալ եմ ծնողներիցս, որոնք այստեղ են, ինքնոջիցս, որ այստեղ են, այն բանի համար, որ ստեղծել են իմ շուրջ իմ հետ միասին այն հնարավորությունները, որով կարողանում ենք այսօր իրականացնել այս լայնածավալ նախագիծը։ William Saroyանը այն մարդն է, որը 20-րդ դարի մեծագույն ապրանքի ստենդերի և հեղունդրուի հետ նույն ժամկի վրա կանգնացող հայկական միտքը և հայկական ազգանունը։ Դրա համար մենք բոլորս մի մարդու նման միշտ պետք է շնորհակալ լինենք պարոն Սարոյանին և փորձենք շարունակել այն արժեհամակարգը, որը նա ստեղծեց և ներկայացրեց աշխարհին։
Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Ganyanyan and the Mayor of Fresno, the At this time, I'm going to invite everyone. What we're going to do is invite everyone to go to the backyard.
preview of what we can expect. If you would like to go to the museum, it is by appointment only. Go to saroyanhouse.com and make the appointment, and hopefully you have a chance to see that. As you saw the hologram in the end there, it really is just so fascinating to see him come to life in his own environment. Okay, we do have one other film to show you. This is a short documentary, The Saroyan House, how the project came to be, and a little bit about William Saroyan himself.
Today, I am going to write in earnest. Today, I don't need to think about writing. Today, it will happen. I don't need to struggle on this glorious day, the day of the pure of soul. I have come up from the earth with my dead father, face and his eyes, and I am writing in English what he would have written in our native language. And we are the same man, one dead and one alive. Furiously, I am smoking a cigarette, for the moment is of great importance to me, and therefore of great importance to everyone. I am about to place language, my language, upon a clean sheet of paper, and I am trembling. It is so much a responsibility to be a user of words. I do not want to say the wrong thing. I do not want to be clever. My father was a writer too. He was an unpublished writer. I have all his great manuscripts, his great poems and stories, written in our native language, which I cannot read. 2 or 3 times each year, I bring out all my father's papers and stare for hours at his contribution to the literature of the world. Like myself, I am pleased to say he was desperately poor. At first, he worked for other farmers. Then, he made a down payment on a small farm of his own. But he was a rotten farmer. He was a man of books, a professor.
People often ask me, what kind of a person was Saroyan? Was he kind? Was he pleasant? Was he easy to speak with? Saroyan was, of course, very kind when he wanted to be kind, and not kind at all when he didn't want to be kind.
The play, The Time of Your Life, in 1939, became a major landmark in the American theatrical life. William Saroyan was awarded the New York Drama Critics Circle Award and the Pulitzer Prize. Saroyan rejected the monetary component of the former on the grounds that commerce does not have the right to patronize the art.
One of the reasons that he had refused that Pulitzer Prize was he felt that no critics really were able to criticize his work. He says basically, I don't accept the words of critics, so he refused all of that. Of course, many people criticized him for that, but I think it was also him being true to his own principles, and that principle was that he himself was the best critic for his own work.
People loved his stories because he wrote about ordinary people. People felt that he was writing about them. People were very uplifted or raised in their spirits by the joy, the happiness, the familiarity, the struggles.
In 1943, Saroyan had the second opportunity to confront commerce when he wrote the script for the human comedy for MGM. However, due to disagreements, he left the working group. Saroyan was awarded the Academy Award, the Oscar, for the idea of the film scenario.
Well, there are 2 versions of this story. There's Uncle Bill's version, which I tend to find credible, and the MGM version, which is a corporate version, so that they're never involved with anything. He wrote the script. Well, he didn't even write a script. He wrote a treatment, but it was 166 pages long for all the characters in the human comedy. And he told Louis Mayer that he wanted to direct it. And Louis Mayer said, well, Bill, that's a big ambition for you, and that's sacred turf. We don't have a lot of writers that we let direct. And he said, I don't care. I'm Bill Saroyan. I want to direct my story. he said, well, why don't you take one of your short stories, and he picked one called A Number of the Poor, which is about when he worked in a grocery store. I've seen the film. It's not bad. He did a good job. But he didn't do it their way. And when you're with a studio, you have a system. And all the directors have to follow the system, or it screws them all up because they don't know how to account for anything, money-wise.
In 1958, Saroyan traveled to Europe without particular plans. There was just a vague idea to buy a vineyard and, probably, to give up writing. Perhaps it was due to his intention to follow the footsteps of his father, Armenak Saroyan. However, because of the debts piling up due to idleness and gambling, Saroyan never had funds to carry out his plans. This is what Saroyan says about his debts. The debts accumulated because I didn't write. I didn't have unpublished works, and I had an extravagant wife. It seemed gambling might have rescued me from financial pressures, but instead my situation deteriorated even more. One day, I owed $42,000 to the horse track. I was so dejected that I gambled in Chicago and won $60,000, repaid the debt, and enjoyed the balance of $18,000. But it's sheer madness. He settled in his Paris house and continued to work, and only in 1967 could repay his debts. Saroyan readers know that William Saroyan was also an artist and authored hundreds of line drawings. Drawing was another manifestation of his creative energy, which didn't contradict with his writing.
He did it almost every day. He has paintings which incorporate, I think, Armenian themes, but also just sort of an abstract view of the world. So I think it was just another aspect of his creative spirit. Is actually the Armenian alphabet. And of course, his Armenian identity was very much important in his work. Not only did he feel himself to be an Armenian, but he was a man of the world. Then you have paintings which become a little more abstract, such as this, which again just illustrate his sort of whimsical approach, his approach to the world through his abstract and very unique viewpoints.
More songs that Saroyan has written. And one of them that he did was with Alan Hovanes, the Armenian-American composer. And the first one we find is called Kiraki Picnic. Then we find another song, Bari Bari, also by Saroyan and Hovanes. Beautiful. But in addition, we find in the archived material, the original, handwritten on a napkin, Come Out of My House. And when we find that Saroyan and Bagdasaryan recorded it together, that was the most magnificent recording of that song ever. Unbelievable.
Saroyan wrote, "Although I write in English, in the environment that I describe as American, the soul that motivates me to write is Armenian." On May 18, 1981, William Saroyan died of cancer at Fresno Veterans Hospital. His ashes were partly buried in Fresno and partly in Armenia. This fact reconfirms Saroyan's words, which was profoundly tied to California, Armenia, and Bitlis. Saroyan's literature has become a symbol of Armenian-American cultural ties and relations. His original writing about immigrants and ordinary people apparently has the status of an immigrant who needs compassion and care. Saroyan House undertakes this honorable mission and responsibility. The House Museum, equipped with innovative technologies, reveals information about Saroyan from archives all over the world and rethinks Saroyan's legacy as an author, artist, and songwriter.
Եվ փորձել այն գնել, չէ որ դա մի տիրույթում էր տունը եւ նրա
with his paintings. You can see all titles of his books which was published during his life. And also we will have a small research room where people, students, some individuals can come and can take benefit from it and can look by his digital archive which we collect already. And we will have Saroyan's hologram, which is an important part for us because people will see Saroyan like real, and he will tell his stories, his books, he will read some books.
Saroyan House Museum is planning to be opened in August, and it's going to be a really innovative place. It is going to include a digital a digital library of William Saroyan. It will also have a hologram where people will be able to interact with the holographic William Saroyan. And these are all kind of new things that have not really been seen before in Fresno, and actually in the museum world. So I think that's going to bring something that's really unique to Fresno. It'll bring those people who are interested in Saroyan an insight into his work and into his life that they couldn't get simply by reading a book or looking at some other part of his work. So I think this plan for the Saroyan Museum is going to be innovative, it's going to be of interest, and it will be something that will bring people from all over the world.
We were so happy when we found out that someone had bought his house, because in his will, he had wanted the house used for Armenians who were coming here to study. And so they didn't follow that. Instead, they just sold the house that he lived in. So I was so happy when I heard that someone was buying it to make into a museum, because we have needed this for years. And in most places where he was Fresno's favorite son, for sure, and most places where writers are famous, they do honor them in some traditional ways, but no one had ever done a museum for him. So this was just like a gift.
Most museums have a problem of once they open, they get many people attend the grand opening, and then there's a dramatic fall off. So wisely, the planners of this museum have developed a format wherein you actually are walking with Saroyan. So I think this is very exciting, as opposed to flat art on the wall and copies of this book on display and photographs, etc. This is a whole new approach, and thank goodness this is going to be a very first for Fresno, and first for the Armenian community, and the first to honor Saroyan in this life. I hope this film and the good thoughts of Mr. Johnny Vicchia will result if there is a renaissance, reinforcing the renaissance, and if there isn't one, starting a renaissance. And in that sense, the idea of the film, the idea of the house museum is exactly where to start. You start where he was famous, where he experienced life as a young person, where he wrote much of his later writing, where he ultimately died, and that's just very, very good.
William Saroyan այնպես հայերից է, որը ինչպես Արամ Խաչատուրյանը կամ լույսը որոշ մասին չնշել եւս, բայց իրենց ստեղծագործությունների մեջ անընդհատ իրենց հայ լինելը առանց դա բարձրաձայնելու հատուկ ձևով եւ առանց դիմասինին ծանրացնելու շատ թեթև ձևով այդ ժողովրդական միլիզմները բոլոր տեսանկյուններից մտցնում են մարդու գիտակցության մեջ, ինչի համար ես որպես այ շատ շնորհակալ եմ եւ երեւակայք դա է հանդիսացել ինձ համար ամենակարևոր երևույթը, ինչի համար ես մտահղացրել եւ իրականացնում եմ այդ գաղափարը իմ ընկերների հետ։ Սա մեծ թիմային աշխատանք էր, առանց այդ թիմային աշխատանքի կարծում եմ, որ հնարավոր չէ լինի իրականացնել գաղափար, որը որ նորից եմ ասում, թանգարանը միայն բացման պահով չի որ երևալու, այլ թանգարանը տարիների ընթացքում իրականացնելու է շատ ու շատ տարբեր նախագծեր, որի մասին առայժմ խոսելու կարիք չեմ տեսնում։
The House Museum is going to exhibit William Saroyan's collections, personal effects, and the visitors will be able to listen to Saroyan's hologram. And this is just the beginning.
how's everyone doing? We're coming closer to the program ending, and we can start socializing outside shortly. I would like to invite now Hagop Hagopian to the stage, Director of the Renaissance Foundation. He has a few things to say. Let's welcome Hagop.
Hi, hello to everybody. I wanted to talk about each of you here, because I'm not the very advanced speaker. That's why I think that it would be better just to have a kind of a conversation with everybody here. This is all about not Saroyan, though I want to really say happy birthday, dear Saroyan, and this is a small gift from all of us to him. But this is all about you, or everybody who is here, sitting here. Look to the person sitting next to you. You are a part of the history. Because in some terms, what is now happening, Saroyan, he knew, while saying that in his case there will be an exception, I believe that he, deep inside, he knew that this exception has been already done, that God has given him the chance to be among the people who will live forever until the end of mankind. So this is all about us, what we are doing. We here, having this opportunity to touch again with his life, to touch again with the legacy of Saroyan's legacy, to see his house, to hear again his voice. We are the beneficiaries. We are the ones who are taking out everything from this. You know, this is a big opportunity for me also, a little bit also about me. For everybody, when you are entering the house museum, we have a wall of stones that we used to collect, and there are some notes on this wall, and among these notes there's a note that stones and stars are keys to significant big things and to big memories. Can you imagine these days becoming a kind of a stone in your collection? In each of us, for each of us, it's becoming a stone in our collection, and this is becoming a key to our memory to Saroyan. For me, he himself is a kind of a stone in my hand, Saroyan himself. You know, this can sound very loud, kind of, but he was the one who was the first step for me to Bible, through his writings. Because, of course, he is not writing about Jesus in his words, but kind of he was a way, a path through which I heard about kindness. And in our hologram in House Museum, he's talking about hating or loving humankind, and what made him love humankind. You know, when I was a young boy reading Saroyan, I had this feeling that maybe I have right to hate mankind to which I belong myself. And Saroyan showed me the way, and it was like lightning in the air. So I saw that kindness that Saroyan is bringing to us in a very simple way really was very, very significant, and I understood that this is the path, this is the stone in my hand that is taking me to a big memory. So thank you, Saroyan, and happy birthday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Sorry, also I forgot. We have a present for those people. We have presents for those people who really helped us a lot during all these 2 years. Mr. Paolo de Moguchan, and I want to, yes, Mr. Paolo de Moguchan, we have a special gift. Mr. Charles Janigan.
Thank you very much. It's really been an honor to be part of this project because I feel that this project is not one that is only important for us here in Fresno, but it is one that is important throughout the world. I want to extend my thanks personally to Mr. Arthur Janibekian, the founder of the Renaissance Cultural and Intellectual Foundation. It was his vision, his idea to come all the way from overseas to come to make the opening of the Saroyan House project possible. You know, there's an Armenian, I think it's an Armenian cultural trait, even maybe something genetic, that Armenians always do something now for the next generation. You plant a tree now, even though you may know that that tree may give fruit only 20 years from now. What Mr. Janibekian has done for all of us is to plant that seed. This is just the beginning today. What we have seen today will be the start of something which I hope will be the realization of something for our entire community here. And that's for our young generation. We have a lot of our students here tonight. It's going to be something that you're going to be participating in. The revival of the Saroyan idea is for you, because you have to get familiar again with William Saroyan. I got involved with the project about 2 years ago. I don't really know how I got involved. I got a call one day and they said, come and, would like to visit your office. And I said, sure. But it's been a great team effort. You've met Hagop Hagopian, Avak Simonian from the foundation, but there have been the architects, the designers, the construction team, and many, many others who have made this cooperative effort truly successful. I want to also thank the mayor of the city of Fresno, Mayor Brand, Council President Saroyan, and the city, because they also made it possible for this to be successful. Finally, I just think of this place as was mentioned by Professor Kiyumjan. It's a place. Saroyan thought of himself as an Armenian, but he didn't attach a place to it. It was kind of a universal idea. But I think for us, this is one more place. As Dr. Castro mentioned, we have an Armenian genocide monument. There's an Armenian cemetery. We have lots of places in Fresno which identify us as Armenians. And I think this place will be something that people from throughout the world will want to visit. So I'm really very happy to be part of this project. I want to thank you for this wonderful gift. But I think the gift is truly the Saroyan House Museum, and I want us all to enjoy it and to really push it so that it becomes even greater. Thank you.
This dream is something I shared back in 2011 as a result of my brother introducing me to a bookstore in Berkeley, California called Serendipity Books. The people at Serendipity Books had done the appraisal of the Saroyan estate after his death, and they had a collection of William Saroyan writings, artwork, music, posters, and stories. And I bought the collection of letters between William Saroyan and Archie Manassian, another Fresno gentleman and a poet. And we worked diligently with those letters in cooperation with Stanford, where all of the letters and collection really are housed. But ultimately I ended up with a huge archive of material. And there were many dreams that go along with that. When I received a call about a young man and a dream with similar ideas, and Awa Simonian came to see me, I realized that this dream that I had was also shared by someone in Armenia, in Yerevan, and that this entire concept would ultimately be able to be realized, but it wasn't going to happen as a result of the Armenians here in California or in the United States. We had let one of the greatest heroes of the Armenian people languish. The American, should I say, scholars had let William Saroyan, one of the most prolific writers of the 20th century, languish. No one spoke up for him. He was not being read. He was not being taught in schools. You couldn't even find his books in the bookstores. You'd have to go into a second-hand bookstore to find a William Saroyan copy of The Human Comedy. His beautiful Academy Award was languishing in a used pawn shop in San Francisco. You talk about heartbreaking. Here was my cousin's work languishing in a pawn shop. It broke my heart when I found out where it was. But slowly, one step at a time, thanks to the efforts of our brothers in Armenia, this will all be, hopefully, put straight. We need to educate our educators in terms of what William Saroyan meant to the American literary scene. You realize there was an Armenian here in Fresno by the name of Charles Nelson, an architect, who collected all of William Saroyan's writing in every publication wherever it was placed in the world, every magazine. He collected this material for over 50 years. He gifted that to me last year. It has taken full-time work by an archivist to put it all together. And now when somebody sends me a note and says, "Are you aware that William Saroyan was published in the New Yorker in 1941? I can literally go to our archivist and say, "Do we have that issue?" And the answer comes back, "Yes." Well, Leslie was a great American literary figure who happened to be Armenian. But when we saw here on the video the story about his father, do you know where William Saroyan's father is buried? Does anybody know where he's buried? He's buried in a pauper's grave in San Jose, California, in a cemetery called Oak Hill. In a pauper's grave. We need to respect the work that that gentleman did. His manuscripts and his poetry languish. We have taken the time to translate 35 of his poems. And believe it or not, in his 35th poem, he states that one day he will be alone and under the grass. And that's exactly where he is, in a pauper's grave in San Jose. All I can say now is thank you, Arthur, and for your efforts, your colleagues, and all the energy that you've put into this. I'm here to work with you and cooperate in any way I possibly can, now and into the future. Ketse Hayastai!
We'd like to acknowledge 3 other people who are getting an appreciation award but they are not here. So that is Mr. Aram Ohanyan, Bobos Bogasian family, and Dr. Tigran Kuyumjan.
And the others about his amazing personality and sense of posterity in everything he did, even if it was whimsical and silly. I forget that. In 1993, I came to Fresno at his suggestion from 1979, and I had sold to ABC a children's film of his story, The Parsley Garden. And prior to that, I had been the guy that created Jim Henson's Muppet Babies with Jim Henson, and I wrote that song. And I told Jim, you know, if anybody ever gives me a goddamn camera, I know I'm going to win an Emmy. And he said, well, that sounds about as humble as the rest of your family. This is the Emmy. We shot here in Fresno in 5 days, and I had managed to engage, because of Uncle Bill, Tom Bosley, James Earl Jones, Curtis Armstrong, Adrian Barbeau, and a little boy named Christopher Miranda, who was actually Puerto Rican, but all the Armenians that saw it said, he looks Armenian. That worked for me. It was a story about a little Armenian boy when nobody wanted any Armenian boys in this town, who tried to steal a hammer and he got caught. It brought up the whole question of honor in his family, where his father, like my dad's and Uncle Bill's, had already died. And at any rate, it turns out it's a hunt for a father figure in a young fatherless boy. And in the end, his mom gives him the realization that he's just like his dead father. So he didn't have to look for a father anymore. He was like his old man. And I brought this to thank the city of Fresno, starting with Karen Murphy, the mayor, who I called first and said, I've got the first William Saroyan story that's been shot in 46 years, and I want to shoot it in Fresno. And ABC says I'm crazy. What do you say? She said, tell me what you need. So she took out all the parking meters on 3 blocks of street, because I couldn't promise her which way I wanted to look. She took out all the current street lights and put in street lights from 1932. She painted all the parking designation signs out and put in diagonal ones from how it would have been back then. And we shot the movie, and the citizens of Fresno brought in 40 cars from 1932, and 50 people wanted to be extras on the street. They just showed up, put us in costume, we'll do it. And we paid everybody, but Armenian paid. And, well, it was a very expensive project. These projects were usually shot on 16 millimeter film. I brought a 35 millimeter crew. I brought the crew from ER. I brought the crew from Boys in the Hood. I had black Muslim lighting guys that were fabulous, that loved Uncle Bill. And at the end of the shoot, the black Muslim dad said to me on the final day of shooting, he said, you know how great it is to shoot something that's actually about something? And so I wanted to thank Fresno and announce to you, oh, the writing's on this side, and announce to you that I have finally, after all these years, negotiated a deal with Michael Kellogg and Stanford for 25 of Uncle Bill's best stories, picked by me to be shot on film as soon as I find a way to do that. And I know Tom Hanks saved about $750,000 by shooting in North Carolina and saying it was Fresno. I'm shooting in Fresno. I don't know how the hell we're going to afford it, because everything now is 40% more than it was then. But I think we can pull it off. And I know the acting community, all you got to do is say, I got a Saroyan thing, you want to do it? And they say, yeah. I said, you want to read the script? No. I'll do it. When do you want me there? Ours was complicated by the fact that Tom Bosley had a heart attack on the day before his main shooting day. And we found out that Tom had kind of fudged a little. He wanted to do the Saroyan project so much that he didn't tell us he wasn't insurable. So then ABC said, well, then you're in violation of your contract. Maybe we're not going to give you any of your money, Hank. And so I had a meeting with my producer, and I said, I'll sell my house. We got to finish this movie. And suddenly I felt like my uncle. And we did finish the movie, and ABC changed their mind. They looked at the footage, they gave us the money, we got it done. It aired on my son's birthday, March 27th, 1993, and I was nominated against two 2-hour movies by Warner Brothers, a 2-hour movie by Disney, and somebody else, and Sherry Lewis was presenting the Emmy that night. And she said, honey, I don't think you're going to win, so I'm going to have Lamb Chop really screw up your last name so nobody forgets it was you. So Lamb Chop called me Hank Sonoria, and she went, Roy, Ann. And then she opened the envelope. She said, oh my God, Hank Saroyan. So there was this huge wave of applause from the Academy, and I got this. It doesn't belong to me like any of these awards. They belong to the Academy. The Oscar belongs to the Film Academy, and this belongs to them. But I wanted to give it to Fresno, so here's my commitment. When I sell this next group, maybe we'll do 5 at once in town, I will give this to Fresno, and your mayor or whoever can put it wherever they want, or you can put it at the Saroyan House. But then you'll have it. Never sit on one of these by accident. So, I figured I was the only one here that could tell this kind of story about Uncle Bill's sense of mirth. I went to visit him in Paris. I was producing rock and roll for ABC. There was a show that used to be on Friday night called In Concert. And I was producing it in London at the Rainbow Theater. And he was in Paris, and my dad said, why don't you call Uncle Bill and go visit him? So I called him, and I went over on a Saturday, told him how goddamn important I was. And I had a limo 24 hours a day in England. He heard all this, he rolled his eyes, and he was trying to say to me, when they take the limo away, it's not anything you did wrong. Because they'll take the limos for them to look right, treating you that way. So don't get all enthralled with all that stuff. And I almost made it. At any rate, I got to his apartment, and I was wearing cowboy boots, bell-bottom jeans. It's 1974. And he looked at me and he said, do you want a horse? And I said, no. He said, what the hell are you wearing cowboy boots for? I said, it's very fashionable. He said, you mean riding in your limo all over London? And I said, yeah, they think I look like Cat Stevens. And he said, who's that? And I said, never mind. So he said, well, come on, we're going to go for a walk. We're not doing even a cab, we're walking. And I don't know if you've ever walked on cobblestones in cowboy boots. It was very difficult on my ankles. So we're going for this walk. He puts on it was kind of brisk that day, he puts on a long overcoat. And he said, come on, I want to show you something. And he walked me, not very far, to a huge cathedral. It wasn't Notre Dame, but what was the one with the flying buttresses outside? Was that Chartres? I don't know. Anyhow, he said, come on, we're going to go in there. And I said, I didn't know you were religious. He said, I'm not. You are. Get in there. Because I've been an altar boy in the Episcopal Church, whatever. And so I went, and I'm looking at this magnificent church, and he says, I'll be over here. And I kind of looked, I didn't know where he was going. He went over, he was over in a little corner area, and I finished looking at the church. It was beautiful, and I thought maybe we should get going again. I look over, he's standing in the little vestibule where they kept the church bulletins. And he takes a pile of about 300 of them and stuffs them in his trench coat, like a 13-year-old. And he turns to go to the door, and there's a Monsignor standing right there. And the Monsignor says, bonjour, Bill. And he said, bonjour, Father. And he hands him some French money. And we left. So I got outside, and as a producer, you're always tracking money, you know, you got to know what everything costs. And I said, Uncle Bill, what are you doing? He said, well, they're blank on the back, and I use them with my carbon paper, and then I have my second copy of everything I write. I said, well, how much money did you give him? He said, I don't know, $50. I said, wait a second, $50 for 300 sheets of paper? And he said, doesn't matter, it's a donation. So I went into a little speech about it. I said, you know, there's a stationery store 2 blocks up there, and we could, for $50, I could have gotten you 15 boxes of paper. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, and what the hell would you have remembered about that? That was his sense of posterity. And that's Bill Saroyan, and that's the way he was every time I was with him. Thank you very much.
We do have a message. The president of the Writers Union of Armenia has sent a message with Khachi Khacher. He is a writer, a translator, and a poet. Please welcome Khachi.
Բարի երեկո ձեզ։ Ես ձեզ եմ ներկայացնում Հայաստանի գրողների միության նախագահի պատգամը այսօրվա և երեկոյի հանդեսի արդիվ։ Իմ աշխատանքային տարիների ամենաբարձր ուրախություններից է, որ ես բախտ եմ ունեցել մասնակցելու Վիլյամ Սարոյանի դեռ հայերենի չթարգմանված գրքերի հրատարակման աշխատանքներին, որոնց տեղը բաց էր մեր գրական աշխարհում։ Այդ բացը լցնելու համար նախ հայերենի թարգմանվեցին նրա գրվածքները, ապա հրատարակվեցին Հայաստանում։ 2008 թվականին Երևանում մեծ շուկով նշվեց Վիլյամ Սարոյանի 100-ամյակը և բացվեց նրա գրքերի ցուցահանդեսը։ Սարոյանը փոքր տարիքից եղել է իմ շատ սիրելի գրողը։ Պատանի տարիքում եմ կարդացել նրա «Մարդկային կատակերգությունը», Վեսթի Ջեքսոնի արկածները, «Անունս Արամ է», Թրեյսի Բագրը և բազմաթիվ այլ հրաշալի պատմվածքներ, թատերգություններ, էսսեներ։ Ինձ միշտ թվացել է, որ Սասունցի Դավիթ էպոսից հետո Սարոյանը հայոց երկրորդ էպոսն էր գրում, գրելով իր պապերի, տատերի ու նախնիների մասին։ Եվ նրա այդ հայկականությունը դուրս էր բխում անգլերեն տեքստերի միջից։ Վստահաբար կարող եմ հավաստել, որ Սարոյանը շատ սիրելի գրող է նաև ամերիկացիների, անգլիացիների, գերմանացիների, արաբների, ասորիների, հույների և շատ ուրիշ ազգերի, ժողովուրդների, ինչու չէ նաև թուրքերի, որովհետև նրա հրաշալիորեն ճանաչում է, սիրում էր մարդու ոգին։ Բախտավոր եմ, որ հանդիպել եմ նրան, զրուցել և լուսանկարվել նրա հետ և ունեմ նրան նվիրված ցեղի հանճարը վերնագրով պատմվածք ու նաև բանաստեղծություն Վիլյամ Սարոյան վերնագրով։ Ամեն օր երբ մտնում եմ իմ աշխատասենյակը, մեր գրողների միության կլոր սրահում կախված են Վիլյամ Սարոյանի 2 լուսանկարները։ Մեկը պատանու պես հեծանիվ նստած իջնում է բյուրականի բլուրից և ես իմ աշխատանքն սկսում եմ մեծ հայորդուն բարի լույս ասելով։ Այստեղ պետք է ես նաև ավելացնեմ, որ ես իրանահայ եմ, իրանահայ և մենք իրանահայերսը մեծ շուկով Իրանի արվեստագետների տանը տոնեցին Վիլյամ Սարոյանի 100-ամյակը։ Նրա հիշատակը միշտ հավերժ է մնալու։ Շնորհակալ եմ։
Mr. Arthur Janabegyan, please come up stage. The Renaissance Cultural and Intellectual Foundation, founder man who made it possible for us to celebrate and have the museum at our disposal.
Ես կաշխատեմ խոսել ոչ այնքան երկար, ինչքան նախորդ գործընկերները, ես այդքան վստահ չեմ, որ իմ խոսքը այդքան կարևոր է, եւ հատկապես եթե այդ ամենը համեր թարգմանի չթարգմանի, ես պատկերացնում եմ, որ դուք ևս մի 2 ժամ կարող եք գտնեք այստեղ։ Ինչը կարծում եմ, որ ավելի լավ կլինի, ավելի կարճ եւ ավելի հակիրճ։ Վիլյամ Սարոյանի տուն թանգարանի նախաձեռնումը, կառուցումը մեծ պատիվ է ինձ համար, իմ ընկերների, իմ գործընկերների, իմ նախաձեռնած ֆոնդի համար։
The initiative to build and to plan the building of the Saroyan House Museum has been a great pride for me and my fellow colleagues who have been involved in this project.
Մենք շատ ենք խոսում այն մասին, որ մենք մեծ ազգ ենք, զորև ազգ ենք եւ դա իրականություն է։
We always say that we are a very strong nation, we are a very powerful nation, and that's true.
Ոչ շատերն են մեր ազգի ներկայացուցիչներից, ովքեր հասել են մեծ հաջողությունների, հիշում եւ հատկապես առաջ տանում այն գաղափարը, որ իրենք հայ են։
Many have achieved great achievements. Many Armenians have achieved great achievements in various fields, but they have never forgotten their Armenianness, and they have always been expressing their Armenian identity.
Այս դեպքում Սարոյանը իհարկե բացառություն է, որովհետև նա ոչ միայն այդ մասին խոսում է, այլ դա դարձնում է իր ստեղծագործական ժառանգության ամենակարևոր եւ ամենածանր եւ ամենահետաքրքիր կտորներից մեկը, հենց իր հայկական ինքնությունը։
William Saroyan's Armenian identity was coming from that same source. So it was a source of his creative identity, his creative work, in his work, and that is what William Saroyan, we know him for.
Դրա հետ միասին փաստորեն բազմապատկվում է իր ավելի աշխարհի մարդ, Ամերիկայի մարդ եւ ժամանակակից ամենակարևոր անձնավորությունը լինելու փաստը։
And the fact that he became one of America's great writers, not only as an Armenian writer recognized, but as an American writer.
Ինչը չի կարող չհանդիսանալ մեզ համար, որպես պայծառ օրինակ, եւ մենք բոլոր այն մարդիկ, ովքեր որևիցե ինչ-որ բանի հասել են, անպայման գնան հենց այդ ճանապարհով, անպայման առաջնորդելով ինքնության այն գաղափարը։
And so he became for us a shining example that using his Armenian identity, never refusing to show that he was Armenian, he can be for all of us also an example that we can also progress and achieve maintaining our Armenian identity.
Շատ շնորհակալություն ամբողջ աշխատակազմին այս 2-3 տարիների ծանր աշխատանքի համար, ինչի արդյունքում հաջողվեց բացել Սարոյանի տուն-թանգարանը։
I would like to express my thanks to the entire team who was involved for the last 2 or 3 years in the planning and the building of the Saroyan Museum. First of all, Hagop Hagopian, Avak Simonian.
This is the same bottle.
Yes.
Merujan Minasyan, եւ իմ ընկերը Ստեփան Մերսիսյան, որը որ հանդիսացավ առիթ, որպեսզի մենք առնենք եւ կատարենք այդ ամբողջ աշխատանքները Սարոյանի տուն-թանգարանի բացման կապակցությամբ։
All of these were responsible for the success in the project as you've seen it and as we're going to see it, this Saroyan House Museum, which is going to be a great example.
Շատ շնորհակալություն բոլորին, կատարել ենք բոլորս իրար հետ միասին, բավականին մեծ աշխատանք, խնդրում եմ բոլորդ գնաք, լինեք Սարոյանի տուն-թանգարանում, տակ ձեր իրական գնահատականը եւ մենք անպայման կփորձենք շարունակել կան արդեն բավական հետաքրքիր մտքեր, անակնկալներ ունենք պատրաստելու մոտակա ժամանակների ընթացքում ևս եւ կվերադառնանք այս դահլիճ եւ Սարոյանի տուն-թանգարան նոր մտքերով, նոր եւ հետաքրքիր նախաձեռնություններով։ Շնորհակալություն։
I also want to thank all of you because it's been a cooperative effort. The idea that this William Saroyan Museum will become also the beginning of many projects that all of you will be involved in, and that one day we can come back again to the same hall and enjoy the success of the William Saroyan Museum. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Artur Janabekian, and on behalf of the Renaissance Cultural and Intellectual Foundation Board of Directors, Arthur Janibekian, founder Rafael Hakobjanian, Nora Yakubian, Dr. Dikran Kuyumjan, and Rafael Bovanisian. I would like to thank the following individuals for their invaluable assistance in making the William Saroyan House Museum a reality. Some of these people are not here, but some who are here, please stand and then we'll applaud. Mrs. Mary Alexander, the Honorable Council in Fresno of Armenia, Berj Abkarian. Berj is here. Berj, thank you. Andy Armenian, the Honorary Consul of Armenia in Las Vegas. Architect Narve Bedrosian. Stephanie Berugian Prada. Mayor Lee Brand, Councilman Paul Capriolio. The general contractor for this entire House Museum, Greg Gostanian. Greg, the general contractor. Architect Paul Alajian. Ambassador Grigor Hovanesyan, Republic of Armenia to Washington, D.C. Charles Ganigian, whom you met. Paul Kalinian and Dr. Suzy Kalinian. Mr. Seba Khachadurian. Seba Khachadurian. Dr. Dikran Kuyumjan, the great-granddaughter of the famous Henry Morgenthau, Debbie Lesser. Debbie. Brenda Najimian Moderati. Karen Mirzoyan, the National Archive of Armenia. Stepan Nersisyan, Baru Sarkisyan, William B. Seacrest, Councilwoman Esmeralda Soraya, Tonik and Grigor Tonikian. Where are you at? Greg Grigor and Tonik Tonikian. They are responsible for many of the works in the museum. Mr. Vache Vasilian, Dr. Vache Vasilian, and Shant Yemenjan. Once again, thank you for your attention tonight. We hope that you will visit the Saroyan House Museum. Remember that you must do so by going